I'm Max Sterling. Welcome to LarpMix. Today we're going to take a look at my leather armor that I wear one game that I go to, and you can see here that there is some rust corrosion on the rivets, and on the leather itself there is some, looks like salt effervescence, from me wearing it, sweating in it. Could also be stuff, seeping out of it, but it's probably just effervescence, which needs to be taken care of, because on black especially, it looks like garbage. And these rivets are not being too kind to me. You can see on here some of these I replaced with screws and Chicago screws and stuff, pop rivets, and that's all either aluminum or stainless I use, so those areas are fine. It's just the original rivets that are rusty and giving me trouble. Now how I'm going to do this, there's a lot of different ways to do it. You can use like lemon juice or a 3-in-1 oil. I'm going to use WD-40. And a green scrubbing pad. Now you can use a light sandpaper, very light, or you can use like steel wool. But if you just spray some WD-40 on there and scrub these things, that rust will come right off. You could also use stuff like L.A.R. if you want to. I mean, really, it depends on what you want to use. They also make a Flitz metal polish. That's good. So, you may have your own way of doing it, but there's a lot of different options. I was just working with what I have here available. And you can see I didn't get them exactly perfect, but then again, I want my armor to have a little bit of that sort of beat up, sort of aged genre sort of look to it. I don't believe in having armor that looks perfect, because it makes no sense to have perfectly clean armor in a game, to me. Where you're constantly fighting in it and wearing it. This stuff shouldn't look new. It should look beat up and worn. Now, on the underside of it, I would definitely suggest not using harsh chemicals under here. This is where you might want to use something organic, or, just an oil that is relatively safe, because that's the part that's going to come in contact with your body probably, for long periods of time. So be mindful of that. Now, once you get to the leather part, we're just going to use some mink oil and saddle soap if needed. And pretty much for that, that's just using a towel or a microfiber cloth, whatever you have, and just rubbing it in. Now you should do the whole thing. I was focusing mostly on the white areas because I wanted to be rid of those. But, you can do the entire thing. You probably should. And make sure you get the straps and anything that moves for sure, because you don't want that stuff to break on you. And you're starting to see here with just a little bit of work how much better this is already looking. Now this is a pretty cheap leather outfit. If you have good leathers, then you'll probably want to keep up on this. But for me, this is a pretty cheap set of armor, so I'm not that concerned about it being perfect. And you can see here, now that it's done, kind of how it looks. All the white effervescence is gone. A lot of those rivets are cleaned up really well. And, it takes time, and that's probably why I didn't do it and let it go for so long. Now, the inside, I got as good as I could. The outside, I purposefully left a little around the edges, but you can use a wire wheel or whatever as well to clean them up. So if you have leather armor, especially if it's cheaper stuff like I have, I hope that this helped you out. Now you can use these techniques on any armor that you have, using the metal polish, WD-40, and a green scrubby. That's pretty common practice for getting rust off of things. But what you also want to do is, when you're all done, is maybe put a little bit of oil over top of those metal parts just to help prevent rust. And if it's a new armor that you have, you may want to put that on there to begin with. Now you can use things like olive oil and stuff, and a lot of people, they'll suggest that you use these natural sort of food-based type of things, like I said, lemon juice to get the rust off, maybe olive oil or something on the actual metal. But I would really caution against using food-related items, just because of, critters and bugs and stuff. So I would stick with stuff like WD-40, that yes, it's a chemical, but it's not going to necessarily kill you. And, sticking with regular products like saddle soap and metal polish and stuff like that when you're doing these projects. And whenever it comes time to seal it in, you can put like a 3-in-1 oil on it, or there are actual rust preventative products that are made that you can go around and paint each and every one. Now, because I play medieval fantasy and it's not historically accurate, my goal is eventually to swap out all these rivets for either stainless or aluminum Chicago screws, and then that way I never have to worry about the rust portion of it again. I just have to keep up on the leather part of it. So please like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't. If you haven't considered leather armor, well, hopefully, this doesn't deter you from that. It's actually pretty cool stuff. I mean, maybe as far as historical accuracy is concerned, it's not that great, but as far as medieval fantasy, it's fairly inexpensive, and I think it looks pretty cool. So, I hope you enjoyed the video, and until next time, adventure on.